Hey guys, here we are in the workshop. I was going to go over, I make some trees that are made out of preserved blueberry juniper. I do mostly large scale indoor layout. So I was going to go over how to make these trees. I've made them for other people. They're really expensive when you put all the time and everything into it. The tall tree on the right is a 32-inch tree. The tree on the left is a 24-inch. That 32-inch tree, you're looking at $100+ for just one tree. It's just the labor and the time that it takes to put that together. So what I was going to do is I'm going to start producing some kits to allow it to be cheaper and people to do it on their own. Be a lot easier on the pocketbook as far as the number of trees you can produce. The good thing about the way I do these trees and with what I use, the preserved juniper, I mean, that's a 32-inch tree, but if you needed a 50-inch tree, you could easily make it. I can produce any length trunk you need, whatever size. I can make that to your specifications, but I will offer generally like 20, 24, and like a 32-inch tree is just normal, but any size can be made. Anyway, I'll show you what I use here. This is a preserved blueberry juniper. You can go get these down at your any floral supply can order it for you. The only bad thing about blueberry juniper is if you order it from florist, it's going to come in with all these blueberries on it. This is the way I used to order it. I order this and you sit there and spend an hour or more just pulling the blueberries, and it doesn't hurt the plant at all. Some of these trees I've made are over 5 years old, have not changed colors or anything, but just to sit there and pull those blueberries off takes forever. I've got a deal with the company that I buy all their blueberry juniper because everybody wants it with the berries on it. They normally would trash this, but of course they found a way to make money, so they sell it to me. It has, like, this one whole stem here only has one blueberry on it. So I purchased this without any blueberries on it. So this really cuts down on the time that it takes to build a tree. What I do like about a blueberry juniper, I've had so many on my layout, people ask me if I added smells to my layout. No, this smells just like a juniper tree, and it will, like I said, I've got some that's like 5 years old that are still look as fresh as they did when I made them. What I do like about the juniper is the natural color of the limbs. As you get into the bigger limbs, you can see, this is on the tree, you can see how you got the natural color coming out until you get into the branches on the tip. On a 24-inch tree, I can usually get maybe a tree and a half out of a pound of, sometimes two. I never throw anything away, even the small stuff here, like these little tiny pieces. I have a box, I save those in, because you start very small at the top and work your way down. You can see I start really small pieces at the top. I actually broke one off there. I have to replace that one. Or broke one off there. I have to replace it. But anyway, I just start and work my way down. What I'm going to do is go through the process of putting one of these together. When I offer a kit, let's go over here. You will, whatever size trunk you want, it'll come in a primer, a brown primer. So it'll have the base, everything's ready to go. So all you have to do is paint the tree. You know, most trees I see on layouts have a brown or a brownish color to the trunk. You know, a lot of trunks are a gray color. I don't know if you can see it here. Let's see here. This one I've kind of the final dry brushing on it I did with more of a gray color. So this one's ready to go here, ready to have the limbs installed. I also, if you're an O scale and you want a smaller tree, or even an HO scale, I guess it would be a really large tree, I can make these to any size also. So I was talking to some guys that do the O. They said that even this on a 24-inch right here would be okay for the O scale. So that I can make those any size trunks you're needing. Anyway, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the stuff together. We'll go over how to paint, or how I paint one of these trunks, and let me get stuff together and we'll go from there. Okay guys, here we are back. I think what I'm going to do is prime these in black, because I would tell you to paint them black anyway. So I'm going to get black primer and pre-prime them in black. One thing you may have to do, and I had to do it on this, is after you prime it, well, it comes primed, you can see really finely down into the crevices of this that you can see just a little bit of brown. So what I do is I take just some black acrylic paint. I squeeze a little bit in a thing, and I dilute it about not quite 50-50 with water, and then just take a brush and just let it soak down in there, and get into all the little tiny crevices of the trunk itself. Okay. Now, the reason I do it in black is because the way I paint these, you can still see the black in here, and it just gives it depth. So that's why I like painting them black first. All right, let me get this set up. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off. I've written down the colors I generally use, but I'll sit there and I will kind of figure out. I got a bunch of different acrylics, and these are just what I start off with, and then I may change up according to what I want it to look like personally. What I've got here is a burnt umber, doesn't matter which brand. Now this is an Americana, it's a light cinnamon is the second color, and the last one's a cocoa. This looks still a little dark, I may go a little bit lighter, because that final brush you want it to be really light to kind of make it pop out. So we're going to start with the burnt umber, and what I do is I like the Deerfoot brushes, because they give you plenty of area here, and the shape holds a lot of paint for you. And you can get different ones. This one's I've used a lot, and you can see where it went from big here, and I've just wore off the tips of the brushes. Now this one's better for really scrubbing in paint, like on a really dry brush. It gives you the ability to scrub it because the bristles are shorter and stronger. So you can, well, here's one I just got through putting in the black paint. So what we're going to do to start off with is we just take our brush and just get some paint on there, and we're going to kind of brush it out of there. We want it into the bristles, but we don't want it just like soaking in. Okay, and when we paint, now this is a darker brown. We're going to take this, and we're not going to paint lengthwise at all. We're going to paint sideways, and it's just a brushing motion sideways. We're not pressing in really hard, because we don't want it down into the crevices. Let's see if I can get this. And that's so dark with the lighting in here, you may not be able to see. I can't tell from the but maybe you can see there, that's got paint on the bristles, but it's just not gooped in paint where it's just paint's laying across the top, and we're just coming sideways. And we're going to work our way all the way up the tree. And this brown dries so dark, I mean, it almost looks, it's just it's almost a black brown once it dries. So like I said, I really don't know if you can tell the color because of the lighting in here. I do have a spotlight on here, but I can't tell from the video. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way all the way up. It may help to wear like a latex glove, because you can turn around and handle it the other way. And you're not going to hurt it wearing a glove, because you're not going to press paint down into the crevices, even if it's a little bit lighter. Because we're going to go back over this with a with, like I said, lighter and lighter colors. So, all right, I'm gonna get this finished up, and then we'll move along to the next color. Okay, guys, here we are back. This brown here is so dark that you probably can't. I don't know if you, like I said, you can tell it on the camera or not. So we wanted it really dark to start off with. So now we're going to come in with the light cinnamon. Now, generally, I would do this, and then my final coat with the final dry brush is where you go from either stay with the brown or go with the grayer color. So that would be your choice. But this one, we're not going to go as wet on the brush as we did before. So I put a drop here of paint. Like I said, this is the Americana Light Cinnamon here in the middle of my, I've got some paint on there, and then I'm going to dab it out. See, I'm taking it out, and so we're getting an even drier brush than we did last time. And so we're doing the same thing. We're just going side to side. This is even lighter, so you leave the darker brown in, and you're just going over the top. So we're still hitting higher light. We're kind of highlighting it a little bit more than we did with the first, which was kind of more or less getting a base coat on there. So I hope you can see that. You still can see a lot of dark brown in there, but this is highlighting the I say the bark that's a little higher. With not putting as much paint on there, it just doesn't go as deep into the crevices as the dark brown. Alright, so what I'm going to do, this takes probably a little bit, and like if you're doing 3 or 4 trees, or I mean, 20 trees, whatever, I usually sit down and make an assembly line. I do one thing at a time, one color at a time, and then continue on with the next color, with each doing the same color on all 10 of them or all 20 of them, whatever you're doing, so my colors kind of match each other, or kind of I don't go off and forget what I've done. So what I'm going to do now is I'll finish this one out, let it dry, and then we'll move on to the dry brushing of the really light color. So let me get this done, and I'll be back. Okay, here we are. I've got this light cinnamon on there. Now, one thing you need to make sure is that these do get dry between coats. That's why I say if you're doing 3 or 4 trees, do them in a cycle. That way that it gives them time to dry. Because if you do it too fast, you'll just these colors will blend and not sit on top of each other. It'll re-wet the paint underneath if it's not good and dry. So anyway, the next thing we do, I went away from the cocoa, which is still a little bit darker than I wanted, and I went with a spice tan. This is a Cermacoat spice tan. Now, when we do this, we had a halfway wet brush with the burnt umber, a little bit drier brush with the light cinnamon. Now we're going to take the spice tan, and we're going to load the brush up, and then we're going to rake it out. We're going to take all, can you see? I hope you can see this. We're going to get what we can out of it. We're cleaning the brush out. Then we're going to take this and go on a piece of paper, or you can use it, like I use an old cloth sometimes, old sock, old towel, and we're going to take all that paint out. We're going to get it off the brush. Alright, so now we got it pretty dry. It's not totally dry. And this takes a little longer because you have to do this multiple times. And now we're going to do this again, but we're really light. And what you'll see is this just it only hits the very top stuff, the top portion of the bark, or the I guess the bark on it. So this will really lighten up or highlight the tree. So we're going to do this all the way around. And you can even, after you do this, you can alternate and just, you can add other colors to it. If if you're trying to put some moss on, just do one side of it with a little bit of green or something like that. Highlight maybe one side with a little bit of that, and it'll give you the color of you know, maybe moss on the side of the tree. But anyway, we're going to work our way all the way up. But it's still, you got 3 different browns in there, and it just adds to the look of the tree. Now, as you get higher, there's not as much roughness, and so it'll start blending those paints together. So you really want a good dry brush when you go high. And we're always going sideways, never straight up and down, we're going sideways. And one thing is, if you want a grayer looking tree, there's a color out there called barn wood. I use it a lot, and it's a brown, but it's got a lot more gray into it. It'll really lighten your tree up towards a gray color. So anyway, so we've got that pretty much done. You can see the dark, and then the highlights on top. You do have the browner color. If that's too light for you, you can always go back, start over, go back with your a little bit heavier coat of the light cinnamon, and go back, and then put less, or you can put a darker color on there. And it doesn't hurt to change up the colors of your trees, because all of them don't look the same. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this dry. This is only about an 18-inch tree, so we're going to get ready to start putting the foliage on there. And so once it's dry, I'll get the foliage out and I'll show you, and we'll start with that. So I hope you can see the different colors, but that's kind of how I did it. I gave you the colors. One thing, if you handle these a lot, I got some that on my modular layout I moved. The paint will, especially down here on low, because this is the finish is a little different. If you hit them a lot, you can scuff that paint, but they'll hold up if you're going to go ahead and just plant them and not touch them. But they're easy to touch up with the acrylics, so it makes it real easy. So let me get these finished, or let this dry, and then we'll get started with the foliage. Okay, guys, here we are back. I've got my finished trunk over here, but I've got one that I have done before, and I want to show you. What I do is when I start, I went into Harbor Freight and bought one of their small drill bit sets. I mean, I had some, but these are a little bit smaller. And what you want to do is you have your drill bits close by, and what I do is I have a like a old bucket I keep, or not a bucket, old container I have that I keep all the scraps of the blueberry juniper in, and I'll show you on the end. You can see here that's green in color. It's where it's soaked up the. They use like a glycerin and a food coloring or a green color type mixtures. They soak up, and that helps it stay green the way it is. And like I said, I've got some trees that are over 5 years old. But anyway, what I do is I take this, and we just have to start drilling holes. You drill a hole, and what I do is I try to pick a small piece, and then that would go in the end to start. And then we just keep rotating around and just find what looks better. And as we keep going down, we get larger and larger until we get to some really large pieces of the blueberry juniper. And that's where it gives you the color of the limbs and all that. So what I'm going to do now, I will set that one off to the side. And I just use a regular drill. Let's see if I can back out a little bit on this. Oh, wrong way. That's as far back as I can go. We'll see if we can get some in here. Alright, I'm going to test I try to kind of look at the size that I'm starting with, and I get a drill bit that's appropriate. And that's a good piece to start with. Now all we do is take, and you just barely making a hole. We'll come up here at the top. And I angle mine down, or a little bit, just a little bit down, just a slight degree. You don't want them up. And I just start with a really small hole. And all I do then is I test fit it. If it fits, I may want to cut that off, just to keep a pair of scissors by. I may want to shorten that up a little bit because I want it to come directly out and start spreading out. Like I said, we're going to put a couple small ones up here at the top. So what I do, cleaning that hole out, I'm taking CA glue, that's all I use. Take and put a really small drop of CA on the hole. It's covering the whole hole up. Taking our piece, find which direction looks best, and I'm sticking it in. Okay, that's how we start. All right, now the rest of it is just, I mean, if you do good selection, this can go pretty. You got some. It can go pretty fast. Just according to what you got laying around. Sometimes I'll spend 3 or 4 minutes trying to find a piece that I like to go in there. And see, now, like I put that in there. It's the same size little stem, but and well, that's not too bad. I thought it would be a little bit too big, but it's not. I'm gonna go ahead, take the CA, put a drop. And the hard thing is getting it back in that. You gotta drill that hole just the right size. I'm trying to get that in there. You gotta make sure you got everything cleaned out. There it goes. And got that one in. You see that? Alright. I'm just keep going on around. Now, one thing you gotta watch out for is you can drill into a previous hole. You just have to make sure you just don't push that other one out. The CA holds it pretty well. All right, that stem's just a tad too big. It won't allow it to go in there. Now I could go to a bigger drill, but I want to find a smaller piece that will fit in there. Hoping you can see it. Alright, test fit it. It fits fine. Drop CA, and then you get a little CA on the outside of this branch, you'll never see it in your finished product. Alright, there I've got 3 started. I'm going to work my own way on around, and if you're doing one tree, it may take more than one to get used to it. I've done 30, 40 trees, and you just get used to it. You see what you need to pick, you see what looks good, and you can start really, once you get these first 3 or 4 in, it's up to you. You can start getting bigger quicker, or you can just, I kind of taper it down so it gets a cone look to it. Sorry about the camera, it's just hard to find a good spot in the middle. But get a good cone shape to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get some more of this going. I'm going to give you, I'll stop and show you some more when I get a little bit further along, and I'll be back here shortly. Hey guys, here I am back. I've got it started a little ways down. What I want to show you is I'm not even out of my scrap. I've got all the scrap over here. I'm not even out of that yet to get into my regular stuff here. So a lot of times you can save all these little pieces, and I'll start as I'm picking through. I'll lay stuff out like that's a good one there. This will be used a little bit later. This piece right here will be used a little bit later, and I start laying them out, and I'm going to start getting bushier. Now another thing I want to show you is I've taken one branch here and I painted it with a burnt sienna, and so that just there'll be one branch in the whole thing that looks like it's dead. So you don't have to do that, but it's something that you can add in there. And so when I come back and like stuff like this, I'll look like this one here, and I'll come back here and I'll cut this off, And I'm not going to put it in here quite yet, but you'll put that in there, and that it'll highlight that dead branch that's right above it. So this one's just a little bit too long. If I wanted to, let's see if you can see it, I can break this into 3. Well, let me go ahead and do it. See, you got that whole branch there. That could make 1. Or I can take this off, lay this in my scraps, so that'll give me 2 high branches later. Come in here, cut this a little shorter, and now we have a place. So I'm going to take my drill, you see I got a little angle on it. Now you have to be careful because you can just drill through the other side. But see, now I've got my next limb in. I took that 1, made 3, 2 for later use in starting another tree. And so what I'm gonna do is just put a drop of glue. And put that in. So now I'll just start looking for more. What I'll do is I'll come over here, and these here, like you can see, I'm trying to get some stuff out of the way. See, we got multiple limbs that we can use off this, or if you get into a big 32-inch tree, you may come down here and that'd be a really big limb. So that's just choices you have to make. You just have to look and see what looks best for you. See, this would make multiple small limbs for the top. I mean, it's just all about looking at it and making a decision. See, like right here, these, I will end up cutting these off. Like that, that's a good limb all by itself. And that's the way I look at these, just to see. I'll take it, hold it up, and see if that's too far out, if I need it to be in closer. But that's another good single limb. So it's just all about taking time, looking at it, making your choices, and save anything that you don't use, because you can and will use it later. So I'm gonna continue to work my way down the tree. I put CA. Let's see if you can see it. I put CA on every one of those drops, and you cannot see it on the tree limbs itself or on the tree trunk itself. So I'm gonna continue on down, and we'll get finished up with this tree. Okay, I want to go as I work my way down. I finally got into my regular stuff here instead of my scrap pile. Anyway, something you need to keep into account. Pieces like this, see how that crooks? It goes straight, it goes out, and then crooks across. So what you need to do is, if you find a piece like that you want to use, you need to plan ahead. Instead of putting your holes in at an angle, you may have to go straight so the branch can come down at an angle. It's all about planning ahead. Another thing is, you can see this branch I'm getting ready to put on, the limbs curl this direction. So you need to plan on your tree if you want them all to curl up or all to curl down. You know, the more heavier a tree gets, the more to curl around this way. So all my branches kind of curl down just a little bit. And so I've already drilled the hole. Even though that's going kind of straight across, it still curls down. And you can see I've started getting into the pieces that have the natural colored limb on them. So I'm just still working my way down. And so now the thing about it is, you can come down, you can come down and get as far down as you would like. I usually, I come down and stop here right as the bark changes. You can see where I scratched it, and then I added the extra stuff to it. So I usually come down to about this point here. So we're going to continue working on our way down. I'll probably get about 30-35 minutes into the tree of putting this stuff on by itself. So we're going to continue working our way down. And like I said, the hardest part is making choices, choosing what piece I want. Choosing, well, do I keep that as a solid piece or do I cut it? Because that would make 2 pieces, but that would also make one really nice big one. This piece I have in my hand here. And I'm sorry, it's just, you got to lay it out, and I'm just trying to get it all so you can see it. But it's all about the choices. So I'm going to continue on. We'll get working on down the tree, and I'll be back. All right, here we are back. I've got the the foliage all the way down. I just wanted to, I finished it all down, and then down here at the bottom I put in a couple smaller pieces, and just kind of like the trees still putting out stuff down there. You can, if you want, you can try to find some dead limbs, put in there, just some really small twigs or something, if you want some dead limbs in there. I probably got 2 hours in the whole thing, but counting painting and putting the foliage on. You can see my scrap pile over here has gotten a lot larger, and I've still got plenty. I probably got out of that was a pound. I probably still have 3 or 4 trees out of it. I just did not get into it. But like I said, I start with a scrap pile, but it got bigger because everything I don't use, I mean, all this over here has got to come over to scrap too, is use that to start the tree off. Like I was telling you before, you can choose your colors. You can go to the lighter or the brown, the lighter gray or the brown, whichever you want. You can make these as tall as you want because these limbs get really big. So you can, I mean, that would be, I mean, I'm using this size on that 32-inch tree I have back here. Something else I want to show you is that's a 19-inch tree. This is a 18-inch trunk. Now for the O scale or the HO, and maybe even HO, for the O scale, I do have some thinner trunks. I start off with a 3/8 inch to a 1/2 inch dowel, and I make these. But this stuff here, I couldn't pull it off my layout. I didn't realize I glued it in. I have one that's made with this size trunk. It looks just like a smaller tree, but this one is just over 15 inches tall. So it could be an O scale or even a really tall, like a redwood in HO scale. So you can use these in other scales. I do have these available if you just, if you want to try them. These are made the exact same way, just a lot smaller. These are solid cedar, and that's what I start with, and work the trunks out from there. What I do is I sell the trunks by the foot, by the inch, and I also sell the foliage by the pound. You could easily, from this, get out of 24-inch tree, you could easily get 2 trees out of a pound of the foliage. One other thing you may want to consider doing is, I have a friend of mine that makes trees for scenic stuff, and he said over time he thinks these would dry out. He said what I need to do is seal the trees, and I have gone on some of my trees and sealed them with a matte medium, really thin. I mean, thin it down and sprayed it on the whole thing and let it dry. And some of the trees I have, some I hadn't, and I've got trees that's 5 years old and they still look like the day I made them. So anyway, you can seal them if you want, especially if you got layouts you're gonna have 20 years down the road. But even the ones I sealed, you can still smell the evergreen smell, or the blueberry juniper smells just like it does beforehand. But anyway, I hope this has shown you how I make the trees, or how to make them. I hope you enjoyed the video. You can contact me through Tysplanes. I have my phone number there and my email address. You can call me most any day, and the trees will be available through my website. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope it's helped, and y'all have a good day.